and just have a conversation.
Yes.
Maybe talk about how Washington State's better than CU. You know, we could talk about, or you know, bold predictions for our team.
Oh, watch what I do. In 3, 2, 1.
So, like, Underdog, like, your story needs to be heard. Like, this whole thing is about celebrating underdogs and just telling their story.
Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, yeah. Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated, we the ones. Yeah, we the ones. Yeah, we the ones. We the ones. Yeah.
Welcome everybody, sitting here with Nick Graham. I'm Christopher Dempsey, by the way. I've known this guy for a lot of years. And the one thing I really do know about him, and one thing that I love about him, is his love for the University of Colorado.
Oh, you coming in hot today?
Coming in hot.
Okay. Okay.
He's my guy. I'm messing with him. But I am very happy to be here because I think this is a special interview.
Yeah.
And you've been in this chair, you've been on this side of things where you've interviewed a lot of people that have a lot of very important things to say, a lot of important stories to tell. But what we want to know today is a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here in your studio, which I love. I remember when you brought me down here as it was coming together, and I just thought it was fantastic. But I want to start with Underdog because this is the brand name. This is what you called it. Why? Why did you call it that?
Well, first of all, like if we're gonna talk about it, so like if you notice, the N is elevated one. Underdog, it makes sense, but that N is actually ANA.
Oh, it sure is.
Yeah. And so like Dempsey knows this, but maybe people watching don't know. So when I created, like my first go round in terms of training, it was attitude and altitude, but we called it ANA. It was known as ANA, and that's always something that is going to be a piece of me. I'm just in awe of what it turned out to be, how many people it impacted, and so like, of course, that's going to be with me wherever I go. So in this next venture, this is kind of the next evolution of ANA. But for whatever reason, I've gravitated, I've enjoyed, I've accepted the assignment of being able to work with underdogs. I don't know what it is, but I've had a gift to see something in people that most people don't see in them, but the actual person probably doesn't even see in themselves. And I just become unsettled when I see somebody that doesn't reach what they become. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't do the right things, but because they don't believe how awesome they are. Yeah. And so for me, I've seen the fruit of that, in terms of like the 10, 11 years, whatever it's been. And I just feel like there's a calling for me to do more. And with this podcast, I want to reach people that like maybe I've never even met them, and just really celebrate and explore the story of underdogs. Obviously, like I read with intentionality, starting with the Bible, but then I also read with things to equip me. I'm huge on the mental part of what I do. The emotional, one of the things I'm really working on with a lot of people is emotional toughness is the word that I use, right? So like I read, one of the things that really stuck with me is from the Little Book of Talent, and it says, it's the windshield phenomenon. And it goes on, Siri Pak, I hope I said her name right. Remember the golfer? Yeah. From way back? Yeah. Well, in her country, before her, there was no female golfers on the LPGA. But once she broke through that barrier, like after that, tons and tons of young female golfers from her country came to the LPGA, and they say it's this windshield phenomenon. They say stare at what you want to become. So as a mentor for so many athletes and beyond, it's my obligation not only to turn myself into somebody that's going to help them, but also be able to put people in their windshield. Because as a grown person, like you may be able to put people in your windshield, but as a young developing person, or maybe because of circumstance, your environment or whatever, you may not have access. And so this Underdog podcast is about putting people in the windshield to convince them that they can make it. Yeah, I was going to ask you, because you've written a book, you've obviously done speaking, you've done coaching, all the stuff, but this is a different kind of a venue. This is telling stories and sitting with a person and hearing what their journey is. What about that? What drew you to that, and why did you want it to affect people's lives in this manner? One, it's it's a successful way to connect with people. We're in a podcast era. I'm a visual person. I think, and for me, like, I think that it's just who I am. Just the conversation capturing who I am. See, I've struggled. I know that I want to live within the fulfillment for me is knowing that I impacted everybody that I was supposed to. I know that I'm not for everybody. I know that I'm not called to impact everybody, but I know I have this inkling, right? This burning desire that I'm supposed to impact more than I am. Well, the thing is, I believe that, like, I'm not a perfect person, but I'm genuine, I'm authentic, and I'm real. So for me, like, just going and staging something and making a video that's not authentic, I don't think that people can really capture me and how I can help the people that I'm called to help with some stage production. But this just real conversation, I feel like it's going to resonate with who it's supposed to resonate for.
Yeah. Are you an underdog?
Absolutely.
How so?
I mean, I've been an underdog my entire life. I feel like I'm an underdog now. And I think that, like, so when I wrote my first book, God in Basketball, I wrote it while I was, like, when you look back, I wrote it at the time where you would advise me, nah, you've got too much on your plate. But I don't think that if I would have wrote it then, I wouldn't have written a book. So for anybody that's writing a book, right, I feel like, you know, you would be surprised at when you're supposed to write a book. You're probably supposed to write it while you're in the midst of those type of things. So I wrote it at Iowa State while I was seeing these young men and these young women go through these things, and I could feel it with them as I coached them through it, and I felt it even myself. I would see their tears and hear their tears and stuff like that. And so, like, with the underdog, you know, like I am right now in terms of me being an underdog, right? I feel like in order for me to successfully be able to tap into the underdog and write this book, it's actually going to be two parts. It's going to be a book and a guided journal for athletes.
Okay.
But I feel like it would best be written if I'm in an underdog circumstance myself, right? You, like, I'm blessed. You have been a great friend to me, and I know you didn't do it because you were my friend, but I remember you came to do an interview on Ty Lawson back when he was one of the thriving players in the NBA on the cusp of being an all-star game. You came to do it about him doing a camp, and you left doing a feature front page article on me. So I say that I've been in Slam magazine. I've worked with NBA players. Trae Young slept on my couch, you know, when he trained. I didn't just train him. He came with me for a week, and I trained him. Well, I'm an underdog right now. I've been professionally homeless, which has made me professionally depressed. Bro, I had to go get a job. I'm working at Shoot 360 now, making like $15 an hour, right? You know, but that's, you know, I'm feeling that underdog mentality. So, like, I have to encourage myself. So, like, I think that there's a deeper purpose for me to really tap into those underdogs feelings. So, absolutely, I'm an underdog now. I've been an underdog before, so it's just who I am. It's in my DNA.
You want to make sure that you understood. You're tapping into that, so you understand what they're feeling, what they're going through. Does that resonate? When you've interviewed the athletes that you've interviewed, can they feel that you relate to their stories?
Yeah, absolutely. So for whatever reason, you know, I had Taj McCall, you know, Monte Morris. I had a kid named Garrett that I've trained. Everybody sits in that chair. They say, man, like, you have a way of, like, making me comfortable. But I think it's that relatability. Yeah. Like, I was talking to a player yesterday, and he was struggling. And one, I think because I've been an underdog, I can sense what they're about to go through. And so, like, he's been struggling, and I know what he's feeling. And so I call him and check on him, and of course he says, oh, I'm fine. I said, man, he said, how you doing? I said, I was fine until you lied to me. I don't like being lied to. It's like, I know you're not fine. I've watched every single one of your games because I'm big bro. And I said, and so then we talked through, again, that word emotional toughness that I talked about. You know, we talked through that, and at the end of the conversation, like I've done so many times before, he could just feel this weight. Like, at some point, like, we want to be understood, but if you don't have somebody that you can talk to and you feel comfortable, they can't understand. Like, you can never feel understood, and when you know you're understood, there's a trust there that allows them. I can't go fight his battle for him, but what I did do because of his trust in me, because he felt, you know, that connection, was change his perspective about how he goes and handles his business. And I do believe he's going to change because it's happened so many times before, and I was able to tell him the situation he was in, I was in at a more severe, and it was even more severe, and then this is how you go through it. And not only that, this is why you're going through it, right? This is going to set you up. I said, the things that I went through when I was playing as an underdog has allowed me to be able to develop the mentality to write a book when everybody thought I was just a basketball trainer. So
I wonder, in your younger years, or maybe even back when we did the Ty Lawson thing, did you think you would end up in this space? Or do you feel that maybe you were called somehow to be in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a loaded question. I think that, but I think that I think that I had so much success that I was, for a long time, I just wanted to stay in that place. But deep down, I knew that there was more, but I knew that, like, in order for me to fulfill the more, that I had to go through more underdog journeys. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, like, I obviously, I didn't think I would have to go, go back to work or go working at Shoot 360 after, being this accomplished basketball trainer. I told you the other day I filled out an application for the Denver Nuggets, had an application for an assistant instructor for their clinics. Yeah. Filled out a resume. I didn't get a call back. So go figure. But yeah, I didn't necessarily think those things. But again, like I said, I just look back at the fruit of the book and the feedback that I've gotten from the people in my first book. And so I understand the journey that I have to go through. I believe that I'm a life coach. I believe that I'm a faith coach. I believe that I'm a hope coach. Well, how can you be a hope coach if you never had adverse situations that you had to go through? How can you be a life coach if everything has been sweet? So it's just something I've had to go through.
Speaking of those adverse situations, you've had a time where you were living in a car.
For sure.
What's that experience like?
Yeah, well, so it wasn't like I was living in I wouldn't necessarily say living in a car, because it wasn't like I was staying there for months at a time, but it was just in order for me to write this book, I had just left Iowa State, and I thought I was going to be at Iowa State and just my basketball career was going to take me onward and upward. But I was at Iowa State to write the book, and I had to make the decision to leave after 1 year and really didn't have any place to go. But I just had to lean on my faith and understand that this was the path that I had to go on. And so writing a book, and that was scary because I didn't have any guarantees. And I think that's when you find out about yourself. And for me, when you talk about underdog, going back to that, it's hopefully the people watching this, they develop the mental and emotional toughness. Because to me, a form of that is I have a kid that I'm trying to mentor, and he has aspirations of being a college basketball player. He's been coming to my camp since he was 5 years old, when he had to shoot on the kiddie rims. He's a senior in high school. He has no offers. And it's it's killed his hope. So now he doesn't get up and go shoot the jump shots and watch the film and do all the right thing, or do the things that he needs to do, because he can't see it, because it feels like there's no chance. And in order for an underdog to get what they want, because the definition of an underdog literally is a competitor who appears, who assumes, who is treated, who's given the energy like he has no chance to win the fight. Yeah. That's the definition. So when you think about the emotional toughness you have to be an underdog, you have to get up. And that's what I told him. I said, if you knew you had a D1 offer, would you get up in the morning? Absolutely. If coaches was calling you, what would your work ethic be like? And that's that underdog. So hopefully, being able to develop the internal, to be able to believe in your dream and invest in your dream even when it's dark. And that's what I had to do to write the book, because I had never written a book. Nobody gave me affirmation. At this point when I was writing the book, it was completely blind faith. There was no book company, no nothing. Yeah. It wasn't until after I wrote the book that I got an offer to get my book published. But had I not just had the wherewithal to just grind, so I was in that space, and I had just convinced myself. I tell people all the time what I learned through the first book, through that journey. What I learned is, an underdog has to believe in himself. And what I mean by that is for a while when I wrote the book, I waited because I needed somebody else to affirm me and believe in me. But once I made the decision and I believed in myself and said, I can do this, I will do this, and I need to do this, then that gave me the drive to, if I got to sleep in the car, I'll sleep in the car. And that was no fun. at all. And to make it even more humbling, so I came back to Denver to do camps, and what would happen, I wanted all my money to go towards the marketing for my book. I did a partnership publishing deal. You know, I don't have a name, so I wasn't going to go get some huge publishing deal, but if I had a partnership publishing deal where I co-invest in the book with the publishing company, in order to raise my half of the money, like, you know, I'm going to do camps to raise the money. Well, sometimes there would be like hotels would skyrocket, you know, I couldn't get a deal. So I had to sleep in my car, and you know, it's maybe like 10, 15 nights, not consecutively, like 3 here, whatever, and I had to find a safe place to sleep in my car. So the only place I knew was the apartment that I used to live at. I went in the garage because I knew it was safe, decent part of town. You know, so think about this place where, you know, you've had so many memories, you've hosted people and stuff like that, and you're sleeping in the car. So yeah,
that's a boy. I wonder, when you're doing that, are you dialed into underdog mentality, or are you just powering through at that point in time, and then you look back on that and you see how far you came?
It's a little both. You know, like, I wish that I was mentally strong enough to where I was unbothered, but I was bothered, you know, like crying myself to sleep, and, you know, just, like, I mean, I think that when you're in a space like that, like, you can't help but recognize your circumstance, you know, but at the same time, like, it's like, to me, like what Jim Harbaugh said, and I actually think I'm going to write about this in the next book, but when they beat Ohio State last year, at the press conference, the Big Ten Media Day, they asked him about it. At this point, they hadn't beaten Ohio State wherever. He's on the cusp of getting fired. They said, "Are you going to beat Ohio State?" He said, "Yes, or die trying." You know, I think that, like, you have to, like, be that committed to your dream as an underdog, because nobody thinks you're going to make it. Nobody's going to, like, give you the easy way. And that's what I said. I said, I am going to write this book or die trying.
Athletes that you have talked to, you know what, and coached or whatever, mentored, are they, we like to, look, I'm an older person, what's the mental makeup of athletes today? I mean, are they more equipped or less equipped to get through adverse situations? Is it the same and we're just all human, and that's just our shared experience? How has that looked to you?
Yeah, I think in some ways they are. You know, I think that, like, it's not them. You know, like, what makes you tough? Tough times make you tough. You know what I mean? You have to go through tough times. Like when I remember, you know, you're an underdog. And I remember when, you know, we were talking, praying, and just grinding through. I was trying to be a supportive person for you when you were at the Denver Post. You know, when, you know, like, things were tough and you had these dreams, you knew that you were capable of doing what you're doing right now. Right? But how did you get the job at Altitude? It was through experience. You have to have experience. Well, it's the same thing with toughness, like mental toughness. We talk about sports is 80% mental. So I don't blame the athlete, right? I blame the people around him, the trainer, the parent, the coach. Sports is 80% mental and just 20% physical. So how the hell do we have, like, I look at these parents. I'm working at Shoot 360 the other day. I told you that, right? And I'm pouring into this person, developing them mentally. But this parent doesn't know who I am, and they just kind of dismiss him, but they quick to go sign him up for agility. Oh yeah, but can you help him with his crossover? And I'm looking at him, yeah, I can help him with his crossover, but what is he going to do when he goes to college and he's all by himself and it's a business and there's nobody there but him? Because, see, I've had people at NBA right now cry those tears to me. Or the coach. Coach will hire a strength coach, a nutrition coach. Where's your mental coach at? So coaches talk out both sides of their mouth. Sports is 80% mental, but you don't have a mental coach. You're not investing in yourself to develop this person mentally. So, like, nah, they're not as mentally tough as they need to be, but I think a lot of that falls on the culture and the people around them as opposed to them themselves. Say, for example, as a parent, they call me and they're up in arms because somebody's not starting. Okay, that's great. I'll listen to you cry, I'll listen to you complain, but what you're not going to do is go tell him he needs to go find another team, because you're robbing him of the experience of going through a tough time that's going to develop mental toughness, and now you wonder why he crumbles. Like, when I was in college, I saw players that had all the talent in the world, but they had never been through anything tough. Because mom or dad or the trainer's afraid to tell them because they want to keep that money, or the club coach wants to keep them in the club, so nobody tells them the truth. Nobody says, hey man, you got to go through it. Keep showing up. You know, and that's like Monte Morris's episode. He talks about the things he had to go through, but he was equipped because of then he talks about the coaches he had. Yeah. Then he talks about the mom he had. You know what I'm saying? That didn't say, oh, it's not fair that you didn't recruit. Nah, get tougher. I'm here. You can cry on my shoulder. I'm going to cry with you, but we wake up tomorrow. Let's go put this work in.
Yeah. You played basketball in college.
Yeah, we're going to reload.
If you're not giving all you got, it's not good enough. Because for you guys to get to where you want to go, it's going to take everything you got and every rep. You can't throw reps away.
Hey, what's going on, man? Quick bathroom break. But while we're at it, man, make sure if you're in Colorado, you tap in with the Holiday Hoops Camps. Yes, sir, my Holiday Hoops Camps are back. We got an invite-only camp December the 21st through the 23rd for advanced boys and advanced girls, 2 different sessions in Aurora. And then we traveling up to North Glen. We got 2 sessions December 27th through the 29th. We got a youth skills camp 3rd to 6th grade and an advanced camp 6th to 9th grade. Let's go. Tap in nickgroundplayerdevelopment.com.
All right, let's see. College basketball. You played college basketball at Washington State. What was that experience like?
At where?
Not at the University of Colorado.
Hey,
but you did show up to the University of Colorado when your dad was an assistant coach there.
Hey,
and which is where I met you.
Right.
So you did find your way to the place that you should have always been.
No, sir. No, sir.
But you did play at Washington State. What was that experience like for you?
It was awful.
Yeah.
It's funny, man, because I do podcasts and I talk, and I feel like as one of my biggest qualities is just being authentic and genuine. And I think that anytime you have a platform, if it's about other people, you just open up. And one, from an a mental standpoint, like, to me, it's liberating. It's free to just open up, and just, but it just catches people off guard. Not you, I know, but it catches people off guard because they think, oh, he played for his dad and it was great. Nah, it was absolutely awful.
Why?
Playing for my dad, I thought it was going to be a fairy tale. And, I want to tell my truths. This is something I've been praying about. I want to tell my truths, but I don't want to, I want to do it in a way that's, relevant to what I'm saying and not just going out of the way to throw my dad under the bus. But, like, my dad had a hard life. He went through a lot of things in a traumatic childhood, and I think that prevented him from being the man that, probably I needed him to be. And just, I didn't know that at the time. And all I wanted to do was just, I wanted to please him, like, in an unhealthy way. My dad was probably where, I'm a man of faith, where God should be. I just, so the way I explain to people, if you're a person of faith and you say, pleasing God is the most important thing in your life, well, unfortunately, I was in a place where maybe my dad was at that place too, but I could never please him. So that affects you, and I didn't realize how that affected you. I was just never good enough. He didn't even coach me. Like, literally, like he'll coach everybody else, but won't coach me. And, like, if I'm not good enough, just be man enough to tell me that. Yeah, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow, or coach me up. But you see, and so, like, I responded by, like, working harder, but then nothing ever changed. So then at some point, because I felt like, this guy's like a god, like, well, it must be something wrong with me. I'm not good enough.
How did that impact your relationship with him?
Well, for the longest, like, it was delayed, I guess, because I took this, it's me. I'm not good enough. And so, like, I had a long while, I had a great relationship. But, like, as I got older, when I started, like, looking myself in the mirror and asking myself, what do I need to do to be whole, to be healthy, to be happy? What do I need to do to be a better man myself? I started pulling back layers of the onion. Okay, well, why do I feel like this? Where does my doubt come from? Why do I do this? And started rolling these things back and recognizing where it came from. And then, unfortunately, like, once I realized that, we had to have tough conversations. And I told him, I said, Dad, I love you. The thing that stands between us having a close and healthy relationship are a lot of tough conversations. And me having these tough conversations is not me saying I don't care and love about you. It's actually the opposite. It's saying I love you enough to, like, open my heart up to have these tough conversations. And he just chose not to engage in them.
Did you come to these conclusions yourself in terms of you knew you talked about peeling back the layers and then needing to have tough conversations. Was that something you got to a space that you got to yourself, or did you go to therapy?
Right.
How did that look?
It's, so for me, in terms of like, being a man of faith. And so for me, like I told you, I'm a faith coach, I'm a hope coach. I respect other people's religion or lack thereof. The Underdog is not attached to my religious beliefs or like my faith, because I think it's more just like my training, just like A&A wasn't, whereas God in basketball is intentional faith. But whatever you practice, whatever you don't, you know what I'm saying, you still need hope. And so, but like in order to know me, like as I talk about me, I'm not ever gonna be ashamed of my faith and my God and my Jesus and all that. So for me, like my relationship with God, it became a relationship through all that. Because it was so dark and I didn't have anybody there, because he was my coach. I didn't have anybody there. It was just me. And that's another reason I didn't feel good enough, because my teammates would rally around each other. They had coaches and nobody did that. And there's a saying amongst people of faith, you don't know God is all you need until he's all you have. That happened to me. And through that I developed a relationship, and I felt his love and I felt his strength. And that's how I became a writer, actually, because I would kind of like have a prayer meditation time and I would just start journaling. And like to me, like that was my therapy. Like honestly, like God was my therapist. Like that's how our relationship was. I felt healing, I felt whole. I was able to see things I was able to develop the mental toughness to be able to address these things in a loving way and not be disrespectful to my dad. And now I do go to therapy, but it started with that. But I also go to therapy as well.
Where are you in terms of the whole self, and not just a relationship with your dad, but where are you in terms of your whole self, mentally? What space are you in now, and how far have you? Because it sounds like you've come a long way.
Yeah, man, I'm healing. I'm growing. I'm proud of myself. I mean, maybe I'm bragging, but I think I'm the most resilient person I know. Like the family stuff is just a part of it, but just, this is a narrow road. Like I did a podcast, I did a IG live with Chauncey, and he was just like, it wasn't, like he was talking about his journey, and he was like, it wasn't a lot of road, especially before he became Mr. Big Shot. He said it wasn't a lot of cars on that road. Like, and that's how I feel. It's been lonely, like the professional road, man. I just, like I haven't had a gym in like 4 years. I've been professionally homeless. And like conventional wisdom would say, well, why don't you do something else? No, this is what I was called to do. Two, this is what, like from a practical standpoint, this is what I'm great at. So why would I go do something else? But that's been hard, like just being, competitive youth sports is grimy. I did when I was a graduate school at Iowa State, I did a paper, like my final paper and my thesis was, is youth sport, today's climate, does it cause more harm than it does good? And everybody assumed I was going to say no, it's more good. No, it causes more harm. It's wicked. It's nasty. So? Man, first of all, it's a business. It's a $15.3 billion business when I did my paper, and that was 4 years ago, so I'm sure it's gone up. I was blown away. I started doing my research. Like small towns, they build mega facilities to revive the economy, right? Because they know, like I build a space, somebody's going to come play a tournament. So what I'm saying is at the top, no decisions are made from somebody like me that has a heart for the parents, a heart for the kid. Like one of the young guys that work at the 360, like he had this 9-year-old kid, and he's got him doing James Harden super step back, and I looked at him, I said, come on, dog. I said, nah, bro. And he's like, what? He didn't know. He's just a kid. He's just trying to make a little money. I said, dog. I said, that lady over there, his mom, I said, she got off of work. She fought through traffic, right, to come here and pay her hard-earned money here, right? We have an obligation to take our basketball knowledge and pour it into him. Like, we just stealing money if we don't do that. Unfortunately, it's a culture where people like that don't exist. And if they do exist, they don't have any influence. And so because of that, nobody's going to hire me or nobody's going to give me a gym or do these things because I'm a good guy. They don't care. There's too many people in power that don't care about these kids. Yeah. And so because of that, like, that's my underdog climb. I'll be fine because my heart's too pure. I'm too hard of a worker. I'm too experienced, but it's just been a little tougher to get there.
Is that system going to ever change? Or is just the dollar is going to get so big that the dollars will always be the carrot that people are gravitated toward?
In the words of Jim Harbaugh, like, I'm going to put everything I can into doing it or die trying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of the things I want to do with my platform, and that's part of the Underdog, is to be able to show that. Mm-hmm. Like, you hear it from Monte Morris, you hear it from Taj McCall, you hear it from people that have done this, that don't have an agenda. Monte Morris he didn't get paid to come here. Right? This wasn't like I don't have hundreds and thousands of people watching, not yet at least.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, this wasn't for his brand. This was for him to, like, get up here and just let these parents and let these kids hear what's real. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that, like, my prayer and my hope is that, people, and I want to be at the forefront of people that are competent in basketball, right? The same thing I say it in my book, never allow your character to take you somewhere, never allow your talent to take you somewhere your character can't keep you. Right? Like, when I started this, I said, I'm okay if somebody says I'm a terrible trainer. But if they say this is the most caring person my kid has ever worked with, that's the standard. Yeah. Basketball take care of itself. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna out-care you, and so hopefully, like, if I continue to build a platform and continue to develop my leadership and basketball talent, I can then at my age start identifying young people and, like, kind of empowering them and helping them do this and helping them get a platform. But I think good people, we have to stick together and promote each other. It's too much hating right now. Everybody's out for themselves.
That's facts. How many interviews have you done so far?
So we've done, I believe, I did Dalen, I did Taj, I did Monte, I did Garrett, I did Evo, and then I have one with a UFC fighter, so six. Yusuf.
What's resonated with you most in any of those interviews? Just give me like 2 or 3 moments that really mean something to you.
The vulnerability, like, that's one of the narratives I want to change. Mm-hmm. I try to empower people. Don't let somebody else tell you what toughness is. Yeah. Again, coaches contradict themselves, right? They tell you that, like, you got to have integrity. Integrity means telling you how I feel, right? Regardless of how it affects you. But then when you open up and say, like, I'm feeling a certain way, then you're soft. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, like, now what's happened is these players, I talk to them all the time. And so, like, when I call them, like I told you, they are conditioned. Hey, how you doing, bro? I'm fine. And then when I say, no, you're not, bro. I know you're not. Mm-hmm. And I'm not mad at you. I'm here to help you. But I can't help you if you can't be real. And you can literally feel them just unwind. Yeah. So, like, I just, that's just kind of, to be able to use this platform to redefine what it means to be tough. So everybody here has been vulnerable. Mm-hmm. From little Evo, who was my youngest guest, who's 8th grade, to Monte. Monte's talking about how it felt when he had called Michigan to tell him he was going to commit, had his hat on, had a signing party, makes the call, oh yeah, we signed somebody else. He talks about that. Yeah. He talks about how frustrated he felt when he got drafted and when he got his tickets for his first game in the NBA, and everybody else, my parents are sitting on the first level, but he's a G League two-way guy. He said his mom's in the nosebleeds and he's sitting on tiles passing out waters. Mm-hmm. Like, that vulnerability has really stood out to me. Like, I had the Yusuf, the UFC guy, talks about, like, how he doubts himself. People need to hear that authenticity. Instagram doesn't show that. No. Because, right, like, they need to see, like, okay, underdogs, like, okay, because I doubt myself or because this happened, like, I can still make it. Mm-hmm. So I just think that vulnerability has really, made me feel good.
What has this project kind of meant to you? I mean, I think you have a certain view of what you want the project to be, and what you think it's going to mean to you, and I'm wondering if that has aligned itself, or has it even gone to places that you didn't think it would go?
Yeah, it's still in its infancy stage, but yeah, like it's like done, like the feedback that I've gotten, and then like the authenticity of the guests. You know, I think it's laying the foundation. You know, like I said, I just want this to basically be a windshield for underdogs. You know, so like I think that the toughest thing is like I'm a one-man band right now. So, you know, just being able to promote it and doing all those things, and then hopefully getting to a point where, you know, I can be able to pay out, you know, to get people to promote it. Because like my fulfillment, like I said, like this isn't for everybody, but I know it's for a lot of somebodies, and I just hope that every somebody that it's for, because I believe that the substance of what we're talking about here is the difference between somebody quitting, giving up, and keep going, or, you know, somebody, you know, like continue to live life. Like, bro, I just got a call like within the last week, and this was the second player on the team I coached. One guy passed, another guy passed, took his life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so for me, just like I said, being a hope coach, you know, just hoping, you know, like that somebody can just find a way to keep going and know that they're valuable, and know that, you know, they say never put a comma, never put a period where God puts a comma. And if they're going through a tough time, it's just a comma. It doesn't feel good, but, you know, me and other underdogs have been through it, and it's not from I've been through it and you're not tough. It's no, I know how you feel, and if I can get through it, so can you. Yeah.
Who's on your interview wish list?
Well,
this is the holiday season.
Yeah. Well, Jimmer's supposed to come on, so hopefully we can get that. I think Trey Young would be cool.
Yeah,
but he's big time. But because, like, not for the clout, but because, like, dog, like every time I walk by a shoe store and see his shoes, I think about when he was standing on my couch and begging me for a pair of Kobe's. And I just think to like not talk about talk about the process. Yeah. Because Trey's an underdog. Like Colin Sexton, remember how they saying, oh, nobody should pick, you know, Trey over Colin Sexton, and he's gonna be a bust, and he's been an underdog. Yeah. And you know, so like I think Trey would be good. Tyrese Halliburton, I was able to help him recruit him to Iowa State.
Wow, great player.
Great player, but a great person. Yeah. And he's an underdog. He was an overlooked recruit, but like I think that he could just have a lot of value just because he just has this internal joy that people resonate, but this internal confidence, right? Yeah. And just like maybe Taylor Horton Tucker. Oh yeah. You know. Yeah, THT. And again, all these are personal. I remember like when he first came to Iowa State. Man, like he was just homesick, and you know we used to watch film together, and he was just like, you know, just because he was really young, and his goal was just like, I just want to be one and done, and he would call me sometimes frustrated, and so to see what he's done, you know, so I think that those will be cool.
Now look, in the studio you have vinyl.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm old enough to know when vinyl was actually new and vibrant. What role does music play in this whole vibe here?
Well, so like I think that this is anybody would tell you this is me, right? You know, I love, you know, my goals. We talk about wish list is to get big enough to be a brand ambassador for Topo Chico. Yeah. You know, so then obviously the Jordans, the threes. And then even the candles, I write, when I write, I like to have the candles, they can't hear it, but the crackle. Yeah. But then music is a big part of like just my life in every way possible. It's a part of my worship experience, but it's a part of my social experience. And then I lived in Bishop Arts. If you ever want a vibey place to go to.
Oh, in Dallas.
Go to Bishop Arts, Dallas. Man. Unbelievable. Live music every night. It's unbelievable.
I've been there one time.
Yeah, it's super authentic, great restaurants, don't need a car, just good people, unbelievable. But then they had a vinyl store there, and I was like, whoa. And then I started paying attention. Vinyl's coming back, and vinyl's a vibe. So like that's kind of where it started, like going to this record shop, and then you just see all these, you know, like your favorite artists like on vinyl. Yeah. And then it's addictive. Like once you start doing it, it's just an experience.
Yeah. I see you got Jay-Z's. Blueprint
Oh
album.
yeah. I might pull that out because this is my favorite album. That's my favorite album. In college, I fell asleep to this every night.
Did you really?
Every night, bro. That's back when. Remember when you had the disc when you put 3 in, and then it popped to the other one. Because you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like every night. Dog.
I love that album. It's one of my favorite albums. Also, Jay-Z's Black Album is one of my favorite albums. And I got Jay-Z on the brain because as you're speaking and we're talking about music, one of my favorite songs is Moment of Clarity. And that's on the Black Album, I believe. And it's just, you know, you have these songs that kind of speak to you through tough times and try and help get you through that. Well, that was one of the songs that really resonated with me. And but it's kind of cool to see. And I know you like the music vibe in here, so I can feel it. I feel it, man. I don't know if I'm gonna buy a bunch of albums anymore. It's hard to move them. It's hard to move everything.
But it's art, man.
It is art. It's
a vibe.
This is great, Nick. I appreciate you, man. We want to get to know the man behind the Underdog, what your story is, and why you're doing it. And we appreciate your effort. We appreciate, and we're looking so much forward to everything that you're going to do here in the future, man.
I appreciate it. Before you leave, I called you frustrated a few weeks ago. You gotta have somebody, right? That you call, that you can know, that can hear you, can understand you, remind you of, you know, who the F you are, and then help you develop a game plan. But I asked you because you're you're in my Underdog windshield, one of my Underdog role models. Because I mean, to see you every time, like I'm at a restaurant or a bar and I see you, you know, living out your dreams. I remember where you came from, and that just gives me fuel to keep going. So I asked you. I said, Chris, what do you do when you're at that space when you, not that you don't want everybody else to get theirs, but you see people around you successful, and you know that you belong on that same type of stage, but you're not getting any opportunities. And I just think we'd be remiss if we don't talk about what you told me. I think that's a great way to close, because that has helped me. You know, like, I'll let you expand, but you pretty much just said, man, you know, like, I just knew it was tough, but I knew that, like, at some point, like, I had enough talent and work ethic, and you just said, like, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a couple stories. So I got 2 of them, and the first one is when I graduated from college, University of Colorado, Buffs. And I worked for the Boulder Daily Camera newspaper. Now look, it's a small newspaper in Boulder. It's where you start out in journalism if you want to be a sports writer, and I wanted to be a sports writer. And but about 3-4 years into it, you know, I've covered a couple things. I'm feeling myself, got my chest puffed out. I thought I should go some places, and so I'm applying for a lot of jobs in a lot of different places, and I'm getting just turned down for not even an interview, just getting turned down for every single one of them. And so now 3 or 4 years turns to 6 or 7 years at the Daily Camera, and you know, it was an existence in Boulder where you saw a lot of people kind of come and go from that newspaper because you weren't getting paid. You weren't getting paid. There was no health benefits. People needed to live. I mean, you had people who had kids, who had everything else, and you understood that they had to leave journalism to go and make real money. And so for me, it was a situation where A, I wasn't making a lot of money. B, I thought I was good enough to be somewhere bigger. But what life was doing was saying, it's not your turn yet. And so I finally did get to a space, Nick, where I was very discouraged and stopped applying for jobs, but didn't quit the industry because I always had a love for sports, and I always had a love for writing, and my mom instilled the writing into me. She was an English teacher for 30 years. And so I knew I wanted to do that, but I was getting a little to a space where I don't know if it's gonna work. You know, how many years do I have to toil before something comes along? And so I was very discouraged. And then just one day, I was covering the University of Colorado at the time, and then just one day, the CU writer for the Denver Post just walks up to me one day and he says, Chris, hey, would you want to write about the bus for the Denver Post? And I looked at him. His name is Adam Thompson, and he's at the Wall Street Journal now. I said, man, Yes. I mean, of course I would. I mean, yes. I grew up reading that paper. And so 6 months after that conversation, 6 months, I was working for the Denver Post. He put in a good word. The sports editor came, and I had dinner with the sports editor. Then they brought me in for an 8-hour interview one day. Wow. And at the end of all of that, I got a job at the Denver Post. And it just went to show me, when I walked into their building for the first time as an employee there, that everybody's journey, everybody's road is a different road. And I watched a lot of people leave because they had to leave. I saw some people who I thought I was better than get jobs in bigger places. But it was a lesson of, if you believe in what you're doing and you can stick it out, do it. Everybody's journey is different. And I talk to classes from time to time now, and I tell the young people that, because it's easy to get caught up in, well, my friend has already made it to this space, but I'm that good too. Shouldn't I be in that space? Yes, the answer is probably yes, you should be in that space, but your plan is a different plan, and your opportunity will come, and your job is to be ready when the opportunity arises. My job, what I was able to be, when Adam said to me that day, would you want to write CU stories for the Denver Post? Well, then I was ready for that. And it was something that stuck with me and sticks with me to this day. My journey to Altitude Sports, where I am now, it's really interesting to me, just because I never saw myself as a person who would be in television or broadcast of any kind. Now look, my dad was in broadcast. He did a TV show when he was younger, produced and directed, did the whole thing by himself, he and my mom. And then he was a DJ for several radio stations. So that was his area, talking on air, being on air. I just wanted to write. And so, but a couple of things happened. I'll be fast. One, Vic Lombardi goes from Channel 4, and Vic Lombardi was the sportscaster at the CBS station here, Channel 4, for many, many years, and I'm talking about 10, 20 years. He moved over to Altitude Sports, and in the few months after he left Channel 4, the sports director, just out of the blue, who I had no idea who this guy was, finds my number, calls me up one day and says, Chris, hey, would you want to go grab coffee sometime? Just wanted to talk to you about something. And I'm like, sure. I mean, I had been in their building to be a guest on their Sunday night show 2 or 3 times over the years, and he sits me down, and we end up having breakfast. He sits me down, he says, hey, I think you would be really good on television, and I want you to come, and I want you to take Vic's spot. And I said, hold on. Vic is a 30-year veteran, 30 years broadcast veteran. Like, I have never done this for one single day in my life. And he just says, look, I think you have talent, and I think you really you bring out the best in some of our talent when you're on as a guest on our shows, and I think you'd be really good. Long story short, I actually did turn him down. But 6 months after that conversation, Altitude Sports comes, and they say, hey, we think you might be pretty good on TV. We've had you on our air a couple times. Would you want to do this? And that got me thinking back all the way to the Denver Post opportunity and going, well, God is opening a door. Maybe you should walk through this one. And because, Nick, it kept me in basketball, solely focused on basketball, it was more appealing to me in the first place. And they were going to let me write for the Nuggets website too, so that was the thing. But I saw it as a sign that in 6 months span, I had 2 people look at me and say, we think you can do this thing, even if I didn't think I could do it myself, and I never saw myself that way. And I did it, and it was the greatest decision professionally that I've ever made. I've had so much fun. I've learned. I've fallen on my face a bunch of times on TV. I do that less now because I've gotten a lot better and have such an appreciation for speaking that I didn't have. But yeah, you know, my message to you is, and was, and still is you got to keep grinding, and because your day is coming, God won't let you down. You know this.
Know that.
And our journeys are different. What I see for you is, look, I see greatness in you. I mean, this here is amazing.
Thank you.
You know, your ability to persevere and to grind and to have a dream and then to go get that dream, like, that's rare, man. You know, there's a lot of, you know, we all have dreams, and then there's a lot of little off ramps. You know, something gets a little adverse, off ramp. You failed a couple times, off ramp. But to stay on that road and to get where you need to get, it's admirable, and it's one of the things I've always admired about you. And so yeah, I see nothing but great things in your future. You're doing a great job. You really are.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, well,
it's kind of both. It was kind of both today.
Yeah. But we gonna have you on.
Okay.
Yeah, we gonna have you.
Yeah, I'm in for it. I'm in.
All right, appreciate
it. That was fun, bro. I like talking.
Underrated, we the underdogs, underestimated.
Hey, Underdog fam, thank you so much for tapping in. Now, do me a favor, man. Subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things. And until next time, keep fighting.